Well, welcome to See, Hear, Love. I'm your host, Melinda Estabrooks. I'm so glad you've joined us for the conclusion of our series, The Old is Gone and the New is Here. And over the past few weeks, we have featured amazing guests, pastor and vlogger on YouTube, Kevin Makins, Bible teacher and pastor Brenda Dross, and actor, producer, playwright Diane Johnstone, as they share their stories of courage and hope and their insights into our scripture in 2 Corinthians 5:17 from our New Life Bible app that says this: "This means that anyone who belongs to Christ has become a new person. The old life is gone, a new life has begun." Woo!
Yeah.
So we're concluding our series today with these amazing women and co-hosts, Cheryl. Give out a shout out if she took a sip of water. Joanna.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to do this little. No. And Kimberly. Say hello, Kim from Nashville.
Hello.
It's glad. So good to have you up here
Thank
in
you.
Canada.
It's good to be here.
And we are joined by our very special guest all the way from British Columbia,
Yeah.
Janice Nikkel. The Associate Director of the Parent and Family Network at Trinity Western University in British Columbia, and a breeder, we love this, of St. Bernards and Beagles.
True story. Wow.
Amazing. Can we just post up a little picture of them right now? There's a couple of St. Bernards. Cute. Janice, welcome.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
Well, our theme is The Old is Gone, the New is Here, from 2 Corinthians 5:17. And it's this sense of, being a new creation in Christ, the old is gone, the new is here. When you hear that, what is your first impression, your thought about that verse? How does it make you feel, and what are your thoughts about that?
It makes me feel completely hopeful. It makes me feel like there's so much ahead. It means that our past does not define us, because Christ has set us free from that, and there's a chance for fresh starts. And I love what is ahead. I love it. And I've seen God be so faithful over the years that I'm like, how could I not trust him to move forward at this point? So
give us one significant moment in your life, experience, whatever, that really defines the old, the new.
Okay. Well, there's so many. There's so many. One example, I grew up here in Ontario and I moved west. And that was a new season for me. I didn't know I would stay, but God planted me there. In fact, I moved from Oakville to a farm in Langley, British Columbia. And I'm like,
a farm girl?
A farm girl. Yeah, we actually have cows and chickens and ducks and geese
like a
and
working
goats.
farm?
Yeah. It is. Yeah, we breed cattle as well.
We're all like, oh.
And my friends who I grew up with are like, you what? You live on a farm?
So not like a farm, like decorative farm where you have land and a house. You actually have a working farm.
It's a working farm, but it's actually quite
Wow.
interesting. You might be interested in this. My husband has a dream to create an artist retreat center at our farm.
Well, come on
So, so it's actually a dream.
Cheryl just went, I love farming.
Oh yeah.
Minus the pigs, y'all. No pigs for me.
It is so interesting to see how God planted me there. And I remember saying, Lord, how can you use me? I had 2 little kids. We couldn't afford a second car. I'm like, how can you use me on this farm in the middle of what I felt was nowhere? And within a week of saying, would you use me anyway? I had 6 women coming to my house for a Bible study, another lady leading it. And I'm like, all I had to do was host. I'm like, wow, God can use us no matter where we are at in our lives. So
Let's talk about your connection, or almost connection, with OPRAH.
Oh, my almost connection to OPRAH.
Yes,
Sorry,
please.
I'm sorry, what?
Yes. OPRAH.
OPRAH. So Oprah and I are best friends. No, actually, so remember in the early 90s, she was kind of like getting sleazier and like desperately trying to make stories up. And I'm like, that's not very classy. But then she switched. She went way more positive and wanting to empower women. I'm like, I'm going to write her a letter. So I wrote her a letter and I thanked her for making that switch. And I said, if you're ever looking for a great engagement story, here's mine. And in fact, they liked it so much they invited us to come to Chicago. But I happened to be in Nashville, where you live, for work at the time, and it was before cell phones, so they couldn't get a hold of me.
Oh, no.
I was like, are you kidding me? But then they invited us the next year, so they had us FedEx, so I had her FedEx number. I was like, okay, I'm in with Oprah's FedEx number.
That's awesome.
And so we sent them all the stuff from our engagement, and then they ended up changing the theme to weddings from engagements. So we didn't get on the show, but to have been invited twice is actually pretty cool.
Wow.
Wow. And so your engagement story must have been pretty amazing.
It was amazing. It was like an 8-hour treasure hunt through Vancouver that included rowing in a rowboat up a mountain, not rowing up a mountain, like up a gondola. What else did it include? Finding a treasure in a box. It included a helicopter ride. It was so extravagant that I still actually haven't heard a more creative one, even though that's actually really popular to do.
That is so cool.
Wait, to all you men out there, did you just hear what just happened? 8-hour treasure hunt.
It was so good.
engaged.
And then he actually had it all videoed from behind the bushes.
Oh, I love
So
that.
that was the excitement part. So back then, 1991,
There
it
were
wasn't
video
very
cameras though.
We rented one. Like he had rented a big one and had his friends do it all. So it was really special.
Awesome.
And what he does, he's actually a high school teacher, and he tells his students the story. And he says, you know, the guys hate him, the girls love him. But it's actually, he wants them to know that you can be romantic and you can keep the sparkle alive.
So good.
I love that.
Yeah, you also have a connection with Bono.
Okay, well.
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
just gonna just like drop names.
You can drop a lot of names with me, but my connection is like limited.
I just like to be a little salacious.
I'm
and,
friends
you
with
know.
Bono's driver when he comes to Vancouver, and he knows that we're big fans. And so he's like, well, I'm not going to tell you this, but here's where Bono's going to be. And so we got to meet Bono this spring when he was in Vancouver.
Cool.
And, yeah, it was fun.
That's really great. What a life.
It has been fun. I got to pray with the Prime Minister when I was 17. I got honored as a junior citizen of Ontario. Like little things like this kept happening, and that's why I think God put me on a farm to say, you're not done. I've got a lot to train you. And so here I had this season where I was like feeling like I'm not being as dynamic or a leader making a difference around the world, but I like, oh wow, God can use me on a farm.
Use you wherever you're at.
Yeah, so it's been a learning ground. I'm still there 20 years later.
That's a good point. I think I'm going to throw that question out to you guys. Where have you felt where, you know, you thought you'd be somewhere bigger or grander, but actually you realized maybe later, even at the moment, that God was using you right where you were. And that it might not have been as glamorous, but you're like, shoot.
Right now?
I
I was just talking to someone in the change room about this today. Just like sometimes when, you're thrown into something and you go, well, listen, I love where I'm at in my life, but you go, oh, okay, should I be doing something bigger, better? Like, do I have a purpose still?
Like praying over the socks.
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're just pulling socks out of the dryer, right? And I'm like,
and that's where God has you.
and that's where God has me every single day. I'm in the house, you know, and I'm like, well, I might as well just pray over these socks.
Like Practicing the Presence of God by Brother Lawrence.
Right.
It's good.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we got champions in my house.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not feeling doing the grand thing, but I think I feel like I'm in that right now.
I think for me it was, because I love the big.
So do I.
Can you tell? I love the big, I love the glossy, I love the dramatic. But it's interesting, as I have been in my world. I like to be glossy. But in my world, when I think of some of the things that aren't so glamorous, when I was a server, and having to pay through school and go through customer service on the phones. 12 a.m. to 4 a.m. on the phones, not glamorous. But I felt that those were some of the best times where God spoke. Because it was in those moments where you're like, this is really not great. And no one even knows I'm here. And I don't even have a desk, or I'm working late at night. My feet are killing me, and there was a really rude person while I was serving them. That's where I feel sometimes God kind of speaks and says, in the faithfulness, in the little things, in the consistency and the commitment, this is where I'm going to grow you. Where you're going to learn to have patience and to keep your mouth shut and to pray. And so I found in those moments in my life, like, now here I am doing TV and whatnot, but those are actually key pivotal moments in my life where there wasn't the glossy and glam, it was the simple and where God met me. Sarah, what about you? A time like the farm
I won't take too long. I'm like you, Melinda. Surprise, surprise. I like the big, but God has a way. He has a wonderful sense of humor with me, and he enjoys ribbing me. I'll tell you that. Some of the most significant work I've done has been in youth detention centers and prisons where I'm not even allowed to bring my phone. I have to surrender all devices. And so it's like, but I can't capture.
Right.
And it's been an amazing experience of not having to always display everything, because we do get caught in this sort of social media culture of like, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is where I am, and I just ate spaghetti, and not everything has to be, and so God's taught me a valuable lesson in that.
Yeah, that's good.
So good.
Janice, I love that, because when you know your significant moment, sort of this old new, is being transplanted out of a very comfortable setting to a farm, which is very different, and different work, and different landscape, and different people. It's amazing. Now, I want to go through some of your key themes now, because you've got some really key themes in your life, and how that kind of mixes into the new and what we can learn from you, because you have a lot of wisdom and a lot of experience that I know for us women we can really learn from. And so Your advice and tips on the first one, trusting God when life doesn't make sense. I love that one. Trusting God when life doesn't make sense. Your thoughts, and I know that we have a lot of things to say with that, but.
Well, life hits you. There's not one person that goes through life where they haven't had something that's gone, whoa, that was really unexpected, or that was painful, whether it's divorce, whether it's death, whether it's however it looks in your marriage. And like one of the biggest ones that hit us right away was my brother-in-law dying in a scuba diving accident. And we didn't have a body for 6 years. And the grief has a way of manifesting itself in ways that you don't expect. So it impacted our marriage. And here we are with 4 little kids. And I'm like, okay, what do we do now? Like, how do we trust God when all these things aren't making sense, and when marriage doesn't look the way you think it should, and often it will. I mean, all of us will hit that point in our marriage where it doesn't look like it should, and you have to really work on it. But I actually have a plaque in my kitchen that says God keeps his promises, and I made a choice. I'm either going to trust God when it doesn't make sense, or I'm not. And so I started writing down every promise I could think of. I promise I will never leave you, I will never forsake you.
love it.
Come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, I will give you rest. Cast all your cares on me, because I care for you. And I realized I can trust God. And when I choose to, he has proven to be faithful over and over and over again. And man, I am so grateful I did. And I love that I've been able to see this in my kids now, watching them make their own faith journeys personal. And my kids are 22 down to 16, and loving watching what God is doing in their lives now. So.
I love that promise thing. That's good. What are our promises? What are some of the promises that we have that we've been holding on to? A verse or promise of God? What would you say for you?
Romans 8:28, for I consider the sufferings of this present time not worthy to be compared to the glory which shall be revealed in me. Everything that I'm doing, whether good or bad on the spectrum, it pales in comparison to the promise of my life afterwards with my Father. And so that I hang on to all the time, because we have this myopic view, like this is the worst thing ever, or this is the best thing ever. And it's like there's so much more. Like life is bigger, God is bigger.
I would say Isaiah 41:10. Do not fear, for I'm with you. Do not anxiously look about you, for I'm your God. I will strengthen you and help you, and I will hold you with my righteous right. Warrior hand. And I've claimed that, and I've said that right from when my parents as missionaries would leave us to go and smuggle Bibles into countries and we never knew if we'd see them again, to coming to Canada, to being bullied, to all kinds of things that have been so hurtful in my life. And I remember always that verse was like, do not fear, I'm with you. And I would just repeat it, whether it was on the sidewalk in Toronto because I was left on the side of the road, or when I was left by my husband, or if my was left and I failed on things. I would say it over and over, and that's a promise that I've held on to that I believe is true and has saved me through the years.
Yeah, there's so many, like, even snippets of verses, right? Like, do not fear and stuff. But when I was a single mom, there's this verse in Haggai that just says, like, I will woo her and bring her flowers, and she will call me husband again. Like, I clung to Jesus being my husband for 8 years as a single mom. And then there's the one that probably so many people love. It's just Jeremiah 29:11. Like, I know the plans that I have for you. Even when you feel lost and alone, you have no idea. Like, I know the plans I have for you. It's a future and a hope. I'm like, oh, okay. And you just cling to that. I love that.
Yeah.
The promise, the promise, the promise.
Good. Joe?
Oh, so many.
I knew you were going to say that. Oh, so many.
I mean, some are more personal, and some are more powerful. Like, I will receive power, you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes upon you and be my witnesses. I mean, as a person who works in church, a calling to witness to the power of God and his work in the world. His great love for us is probably like my driving force in life. But one of my most hopeful promises, particularly in a season where in my family, we're dealing with long-term illness and stuff with my dad, and it's this. It's just like Billy Graham says. Like, I know how the story ends. Like the promise of Revelation in the book of Revelation to me, of like the Lamb. Like, it's even tattooed on me, right? That the Lamb will overcome. And we know how the story ends, and that is a promise. Like, whatever may happen, and injustices in the world that are so awful.
Yeah.
That there's no answer for here, but we know the end of the story.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thanks for that. It was just a moment. I'm like, it's good for us to be reminded of the promises of God.
And I love that idea. I feel like that could be for someone that just picks, is to write, to just sort of write a few promises down.
That's so good.
It's really good.
I love that.
And you can Google it. Like if people are like, I don't even know where to start.
What do I do?
Go on your phone.
God's promises.
And they're there.
And then like copy, paste, send it to your friend.
Google verses of encouragement.
Like write it with makeup on your mirror.
Yeah,
I do that.
too.
I actually do that.
Do you?
Yes.
Yeah, like in fact, this is kind of interesting segue, just a tiny bit, but I have like on my mirror with lipstick verses, I've got love God, love others in my shower. My son used to get mad at me driving to school. Why do you always talk about God? I said, it's my job. It's my job.
I'm going to buy sort of a dollar store lipstick because the lipsticks I have
Expensive. Can't waste them on
Where you're like, that was worth $15.
That's a $15 verse right there.
Eternal investment.
Okay, there you go.
Very good.
Janice, I love that. So trusting God when life doesn't make sense. That's good. Now, you also have a theme for you, living on purpose with intentionality. Like you live on purpose with a sense of intentionality. What do you mean by that?
Well, I look at every day as an opportunity that God has given me. And I still remember, even in high school, I'd walk to school in Oakville and I'd sing little songs and I'd say, like, my mom used to teach me Jesus and others and you. What a wonderful way to spell joy. And J is for Jesus, He is first place, O is for others. You meet face to face, Y is for you. And whatever you do, put yourself last and spell joy. And this was my mentality going to high school, thinking, okay, every day is an opportunity. There's just people that will be my friends. Some will be friends for the long haul and some will be friends just during this season. But God, you've given me this 24 hours. How am I going to invest it? And a Sunday school teacher I had said, God gives us enough hours in the day to do what He wants us to do. And so when you give each day to God and say, okay, God, this is my day. And you know there's certain expectations you have to do. Those are the have-tos that come in a day. But then there's those little moments where you're like, opportunities where someone steps into your journey where you're not sure who that person is, but maybe it's someone just God's put in your door and you're like, okay, I've got to actually make space, create some space for that person. And you don't know why, but God has put them there and your job is just to like walk into that. And so every day is kind of like that with me.
That hits me
that's
so
so
hard
good.
because how many believers, how many of us live like that? Like how many of us actually consciously sort of are intentional in our day and actually framing our day with Jesus? You know, you think about, we just chart our own course so many times.
So give us some tips on that, because I wake up and I sort of go about my day. Like I don't even think about being intentional and purposeful. I mean, I feel like I go to work because that's the purpose, but I don't, as you're saying this, I'm thinking, do I actually sit before I go into work and actually say, okay, God, help me to be more aware, help me to listen to you? I don't do that.
Well, I'm not always that conscious of it. Like, it's just what I do. And so, like, for example, like, I remember my mom's like, okay, get ready in the morning, take as little time as you can, but make yourself look cute for the day, and then you don't have to think about yourself anymore, right? Like, so you're kind of other-minded throughout the day. There's certain, obviously, expectations you have in your job that you have to do, but in those moments, I think it's just being present and being aware. I have the privilege of working at a Christian university, so I'm like, okay, I know that there's students that come here that maybe aren't Christians, and I get to intersect in their lives. I love that. And if I can give that little nugget to get them through the day, because I mean, 18 to 22 is hard enough anyway, whether you're at a Christian school or not. It's a hard season of life, and I love the privilege of being able to speak into people's lives. And I look at that now, I realizing, okay, I'm actually considered on the older spectrum as a parent of a 22-year-old now. I'm like, okay, they must see me as, you know, you think of yourself as still 22, but they must see me as older now.
Yeah, but when you hang out with the 22-year-olds,
I don't
feel 22.
I'm like, oh.
Why do you think I hang out with all you girls?
And then I'm like, you know what? It's my job now. I'm seeing this is my job now as a woman at this season of my life to be able to speak into people's lives. And if they give me that opportunity, I will take it. Or if they add me on Facebook, or if they follow me on Instagram or something.
I think that's a really good reminder for us about this intentionality and being purposeful, because a lot of times we're so rushed and so busy, we actually aren't intentional. We just sort of like go about life and let things happen to us. Respond this way, be reactive. I've never really thought about, okay, here's my day, God, you know, help me to be courageous if I see somebody and you nudge me towards this person, like in the coffee lineup, to go and talk to them, and to maybe take some time to just pray at this moment, because we're so busy. So I think that's really a good reminder to just sort of like,
it becomes a faith adventure. It really does.
Ooh,
because you're like, wow, you never know what kind of like adventure God's going to have for you that day. Because he promises a full life, right? John 10:10. I want you to have, I don't want to miss out on any of that.
Because the truth
like,
is,
I love big.
The truth is,
I do love big.
And the truth is God's always speaking, right?
Yes.
It's whether we choose to hear him or not.
Yeah. Well, and you look at like anyone we would admire for any area of their life, but particularly we're talking about their faith. Like, what are the biographies? Like, I love reading the biographies of people who have gone before, because there's so much to learn. And I listen to them a lot on audio because I have ADHD. Reading, not great for me. I do it as I drive, and so I try to just get the content in me. And you hear the intentionality that they live every day. Like even if it's family time, like it's blocked out on the calendar intentionally. Because then when someone says, oh, do you want to go for coffee? You look at your calendar and you see that it's actually busy. Like you are busy. You're spending time with your family. It's not just, it doesn't just blur into everything else. These intentions we can have with how we start our day, or like why we need time away, like why Jesus took time away. But I love how you're talking about that. From your earliest days, this has been sort of an ongoing practice of your life.
Right. No, and life isn't always easy.
Right.
Yeah.
You were talking about different, I was thinking of an analogy of the mountaintop. You know how we always want those mountaintop experiences in life. And you look on top of a mountain and it's like there's no life there. There's nothing growing. It's in the valleys that there's growth. Right. And you're like, whoa, okay, God, I see why when I'm going through this hard time, you're actually doing stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Helping me be a better person. Follower of you, if I choose to trust you.
Yeah.
Janice, you love helping women in leadership.
I do.
And I love that you're here because, you know, here we are, and women in leadership in our families, in our churches, in our artistic work, in media, and all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Give us some advice on women in leadership. And I love it because let me just sit here and. But I think, you know, it's really great to be encouraged by other women of faith and that are Christians who are in it, to sort of give some thought and sort of advice on how to do it well, or what are some tips that you would say, you know, as women leaders, we have different things that we are faced with than men, and different challenges and different ways that we look at ourselves and our own insecurities. What are your thoughts on some maybe 3 things that you would say would be some great tips for us? Well,
remember that there's seasons in life. I had a wise woman who had raised 6 kids and then went on to become liaison of women groups in the White House. Dee Jepson's her name in the 80s. And she said, you know, I believe women can do anything they want to do, just not all at the same time. And too often we women buy into the lie that we can have it all.
True.
And what that empowered me to do is I actually stayed home 12 years with my kids. And I'm like, Lord, I was the one that was going to do this and this and this. And my job was to raise these kids. And he entrusted them to me for that season. My brother actually gave me this analogy of a suitcase. He says it's like God's giving you a suitcase, and when your kids are young, your job is to fill it with everything they need for life, emotionally, spiritually, physically. And as they get older, that suitcase will be closing. And he says, look at mine are teens. I gotta just jam everything I can, and then it's gone, it's closed. And I thought, okay, everything, that was the intentionality part too, as well, that I could be very intentional with how I raise them, the women in leadership that I worked with. Like right now with my role of at Trinity Western, I work very closely with a lot of moms. And a lot of moms have been in that season where they're not sure what's next for me, right? They've raised their kids, they're at university. What do I have to offer? A ton. They have a ton. And so I have about 80 volunteers that help me in various capacities right now in my role. And I love watching them thrive in various ways where they haven't felt useful maybe, or where they feel valued in a new capacity. Every woman has a special gift. Every woman has purpose. Every woman has something to offer, and it's just allowing them to find that, feel needed and wanted and purposeful.
So, so you're saying, number 1, seasons. So we don't get discouraged, don't give up, don't be disappointed. If right now in this season, you're a mom or you're working at a grocery store, whatever you're doing, this is a season, and it's not going to be this forever. No. It's just a season for right now. Okay, so that's actually encouraging.
And you will make it through.
You will make it through.
Yeah,
yes.
You will.
Yes, you will. Okay, so number 1 is your seasons.
Okay.
Number 2.
Yeah, that's good. You summarize me well, because I'll start going on all sorts of tangents. 2, I would just say, learn, listen to podcasts. You have so much capacity as a woman to learn that you could have so much to offer. But I love listening to podcasts. I love hearing good sermons. I love hearing good speakers. I love being empowered as a woman. I love being in groups where you connect with women who are in various seasons of their journey. I love connecting with university students where I work because they are so hungry. They are so hungry for what's out there, and I love hearing their their passions. I love hearing what God is doing in their lives. And depending on your season of life, you're not too old to start pouring into the next generations.
Yeah. So being so number 2, lifelong learner,
Yep.
podcasts, whatever good resources to help you in every season.
Yep.
Okay, and then number 3, your last tip.
Number 3, I would say, take care of yourself.
Self-care.
Yes.
Look at her like this. You were doing really well. We were doing really well until you said take care of yourself.
You have to take care of yourself. Like, I honestly, I've realized I sometimes don't take enough care of myself. And I think
we do that?
I don't know.
Right,
That's the
right.
question. But I realized, okay, I can start doing a Pilates class, and I did at work. And I'm like, I can do that. I walk with my colleagues at lunch. I don't have afternoons and evenings because I've got hockey player sons, and I've got a daughter who played hockey, and I'm like, I can only do so much. So I try to fit in what I can, and I don't do it perfectly. And realize you don't have to be perfect, but you can only be present with who you are. Yes. And when my father-in-law was going to run a marathon and he got on the treadmill and he quit after a minute, he's like, oh. And then he looked in the mirror and he said, I can only start where I'm at.
Right.
You can't go back.
Right.
You can only start where you're at.
That's it.
And so you can't punish yourself for the past. You can just start where you're at and move forward.
Did he do the marathon?
He ran the Boston Marathon.
Come on!
No. He ran my father-in-law and mother-in-law are both ran it, and they walked across Spain and England and learned Spanish in their 70s.
This is so good. That's so good. Okay, so let me just reiterate, because I like this, because I have to get it in my head. It's seasons. Don't get discouraged or disappointed, but you'll get through it.
Yep.
Second, be a lifelong learner. Right?
I
like that one. That's a good. Always learning, and I think that's a really good one. And then third, take care of yourself.
I think that's important.
Take care of yourself. Well, listen, if you don't take care of yourself, how are you going to do and give the
Esther
output
got
that
a
you
whole
need?
year to just focus on her. We don't want to get a whole year ever.
That's right.
Wow, could you imagine a whole year?
I know.
No.
Okay.
Everything's
That's
at your
amazing.
disposal.
Janice, thank you so much. We could be here like for hours just hanging out and learning from you, but our time is up just like that. But thank you for these things. I think I like how we concluded with you, because I think the learning here is in the last shows, it was like the old is gone. We had some of these great stories of the old and the new. But I think for you, I love it that it's about, sort of steadiness and consistency and faithfulness and not giving up and all those good things.
This is like you stepped into the new. Now what?
Now what?
Yes. And it's new every day. Like, it's a fresh start every day.
Every day.
Well, thank you, and thank you for sharing your thoughts on women in leadership and trusting God when life doesn't make sense, and living on purpose and with intentionality. Those are really good things for us. So thanks for being here.
Pleasure. I love it.
Yeah, Joanna, Kimberly, Cheryl, thank you, like always, for hanging out and sharing your thoughts. And to you, our viewers, we hope that our show today and our entire series, The Old is Gone, The New is Here, has encouraged you to get to know the one who loves you, who's created you, who is for you, that He, God, is the one that wants you to live new in the newness of His love, His truth, His hope for you. And we want that for you too. So if you have any questions about our conversation today or the past 3 weeks, please go to seehearlove.com and click on Say Hello and write to us. We'd love to write you back and pray for you too. And make sure you tune in every Monday right here on Yes TV and online at seehearlove.com to join our conversation each week. Because if you missed any of the shows, the past shows, you can always watch them on our website. And to ensure that we keep our conversations going, just like this one about women in leadership and being intentional, we need your help. See Here Love runs entirely on donations from viewers just like you. So each week we strive to create uplifting shows, blogs, and vlogs, and content that will inspire you and help you get to know Jesus. And so we'd appreciate any donation that you can give. We've made it really easy. Just go onto our website, click on the button that says donate to keep seeing our smiling faces. And if you do that, it's very simple. Just click on the button, and we would so appreciate any donation that you have. And again, know that we love you, and know that you are seen, heard, and deeply loved by God. Bye-bye.